and welcome to SureenaSpeaks. And in this video, I interview the lovely Laura Buckley. Laura has so many different roles that she's involved in. She's a primary care network pharmacist, an ambassador for PCPA. She also writes for Chemist and Druggist. She's a blogger, she's an author. So I'm so excited for you to hear all the different insights and advice that she has. And I hope that you like this video. And if you do, why not give it a thumbs up? Share, like, subscribe. Do also visit my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for now, sit back, relax, and listen up. Hello, Laura. Firstly, thank you so much for being here today. And congratulations on winning Blogger of the Year at the Journalists Association Award. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, I was really shocked. Actually had a little cry at work.
Oh,
yeah, it was a big shock. I wasn't expecting it at all, especially with the competition I was up against. So yeah, it was a really big shock and definitely something to put on the CV anyway.
Have it highlighted and bold and everything. I mean, so much I want to talk to you about, including your blog and everything. But before we go any further, do you mind just giving us a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah. My name's Laura and I am a pharmacist and I run the blog Mum Does Drugs. I also write for Chemist and Druggist. I'm a PCN pharmacist and a mum of 2 boys.
Wow, so you're not
me.
not busy, just
No.
Just a few things. So first and foremost, I guess the question I always like to begin with is, where did the passion for pharmacy come from? When did it inspire you to think, okay, yeah, I want to do pharmacy?
Difficult to say really. I've been asked this a few times over the course of my career, and pharmacy was not something I planned on doing. It was originally, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed languages at school. I was quite creative. I enjoyed drama. I used to do a lot of drama. Played piano. I can sing, or at least I used to be able to. I haven't done it now. So there were lots of options when I was at school. And then I went and did my A-levels and decided I was going down a science route, and had really looked at medicine. And that was just something I'd really kind of thought, well, it's science and I'm interested in caring for people. That's what I'll do. I didn't really know a lot about pharmacy at the time. And while at college, I went and did various placements, getting some work experience, and it just didn't quite fit with what I wanted to do. I don't know why, it just didn't quite feel like me. And while I was at college, I actually met my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and he was doing pharmacy. So he's a pharmacist now. He was doing pharmacy, and he introduced me to pharmacy and what pharmacy is and what pharmacy does. And I will readily admit to being one of those people who thinks that pharmacists take boxes off shelves. I was one of those people, ashamedly, that thought I didn't really understand pharmacy at all. Yeah. So I would readily hold my hand at that. And he completely transformed my way of thinking. So I ended up applying to do pharmacy. And just from then on, I've kind of become one of those people who eats, sleeps and breathes pharmacy.
Kind of does that too.
So, yeah, it does. It takes over. It really does take over. And I probably think about it a little bit too much, actually.
I mean, it can be that force that kind of takes over your brain in many ways. And I guess especially for you being a primary care network pharmacist, for anyone who isn't familiar with what roles and responsibilities are involved with being a PCN pharmacist, do you mind taking us through I put in inverted commas, typical day, if that even exists, but a kind of like a day in the life of a PCN pharmacist?
There isn't really a typical day. I mean, there are things that you do probably more often than not. So PCN pharmacy is new in that only in the last year or so it's been a thing. We've had practice pharmacists working in general practice for quite some time, but now GP practices are forming primary care networks where they are working more closely together. They're working with community pharmacy and other healthcare providers. And as part of these primary care networks, they're employing pharmacists to do services and run various aspects of healthcare. So at the moment, I'm focusing on what we call structured medication reviews. So to anyone who's a community pharmacist, it's a bit like what we know as the MUR, but it's a lot more in-depth. So it considers the patient history, it considers all the diagnoses, you might want to look at the clinic letters, you might look at the pathology, the bloods, and it makes the patient very much central to the consultation, and you are making decisions on your own and as a multidisciplinary team. You can consult with the GPs, the nurses, the dietitians, whoever might potentially be relevant to the review, and make decisions with the patient, not for the patient, but with the patient about their care. So I'm doing a lot of structured medications, being involved with care homes, being into care homes, and do a lot of I call it risk stratification. So you run searches on patients on certain medicines they might be taking, just to make sure they're having routine monitoring, or if they're on high-risk medicines, are they having the monitoring, but are they on other medicines which might be so for example, patients who are on like ibuprofen and medicines similar, are we providing them with suitable gastroprotection for the stomach? So it can be quite basic things like that, but then can be quite complex. It very much depends. I have a massive interest in mental health, so for me, I do try to focus on mental health. So if patients who have newly started on antidepressants, I like to review them, make sure everything's okay. So it can be very varied, and it depends on what the focus is at the time and what I'm trying to do as part of my PCN and with my colleagues.
Sounds like such an interesting role, and it must be so nice working with such a multidisciplinary team, because like you said, you have the GPs, you have the dietitians, you're really working with so many different people within the healthcare profession for this one patient. It must be a very fulfilling role.
I really enjoy is that I get to see the patient at the start and then revisit things on a regular basis in some cases. So there are patients who I have been working with for months, and for example, we might be doing opioid deprescribing, and months and months and months came across the patients, and we've worked together a long period of time, and I can actually see the progression over months. And see the benefit and the difference it makes having a healthcare professional input into that patient on a regular basis. So you can see the transformation in people. Obviously with COVID, it's been much more difficult to physically see people face to face, but you can hear the difference in people. And it's not quite the same, and I do very much miss seeing people face to face. I mean, I still have video calls like this one, I still have the ability to do that. It's not the same, but it's still great to see and feel the impact of the work that I've been doing. And also the ability to say, can I get a bit of help with this patient? I'm not really sure about this one, or what do you think to this? To be able to forward the information to different people and get a response and input from them. It's just so good to have that support.
That sounds like such an amazing role, and also just being able to be on that like patient journey as well, like you said, see them from the beginning and see the improvements that they're making as well. What advice would you have for anyone who might want to go into a similar role to you then?
I would suggest knowing what primary care networks are to start with, because lots of people sound interested but don't really understand what primary care networks are and what they involve. Understanding the services that primary care networks offer, and what the expectations are from the NHS, from primary care networks, and specifically the pharmacy team and the other professionals involved, pharmacy technicians, paramedics, social prescribers, understanding that and what is expected of the different aspects within that. So understanding that is a really key point about becoming a primary care network pharmacist, because if you enter the job, you're likely to be asked what your understanding is of the role and what you feel would be expected of you. For me, moving from community pharmacy into a general practice role, honestly, I didn't really know much about what I was in for. I was aware of the PCNs and the service specific. It was really eye-opening to go from community pharmacy to general practice, but I've really enjoyed the transformation. But if, for example, if you'd have spoken to me 10, 11 months ago when I first started, I would have been probably more like a rabbit in headlights, whereas now I feel like I've learned so much in such a short space of time. Certainly the first few weeks coming home every day with a headache thinking, oh gosh, I've just thought so hard today, I just don't think I can think anymore. But you learn so much. So if you are a person that enjoys learning, moving to a primary care network pharmacy role is definitely for you. I love the fact that I'm learning something new every day.
That's such great advice, and I'm sure it will help so many people who are watching this. And firstly, like you said, who may have not even been aware that PCN exists, PCN pharmacists exist, but also those that are aware of it actually then knowing what it is that they need to do to then get to that role. Because I think sometimes that can be the hardest part, is having a vague idea of what you want to do, but then not actually knowing how to execute that and go there. Do you find, and this might be quite a hard question to answer, but any kind of misconceptions of being a pharmacist working in like a GP practice role?
Patients often don't understand my role. In fact, it's happened probably at least 3 times today. I've actually maybe phoned a patient and said, oh, hi, it's Laura, I'm calling from the doctor's surgery. Because I don't go, hi, it's Laura, I'm the PCN pharmacist or the primary care network pharmacist, because patients don't understand. It's difficult to start to explain. So I just say, hi, it's Laura, I'm the pharmacist calling from the doctor's surgery. But often they will presume I'm calling from the pharmacy. So often, are my prescriptions ready, or have you got my bag, or are you going to deliver my medication? So often I am mistaken for being a community pharmacist patient. I often have to explain, but you would expect that. I would expect that as part of it, for people to misunderstand what I do. But often with that, you get some surprise when you explain to patients what your role is and how I can help them. I can see the doctor's system. Yes, I'm working with all the notes and everything, which is great. You get a lot of positive response from patients. And actually, as far as colleagues in other sectors, you really do get quite a good response, because often working with community pharmacy, if they ring with a query and they get another pharmacist at the end of the phone, often the query is resolved a lot quicker, because you understand where they're coming from, exactly why they're asking the question, and why in knowing where they're coming from, you can give them the right information and go, well, it's being prescribed for this, and this is why we've gone with this particular choice, or whatever the query might be. You can actually get the message across a lot faster because you have that mutual understanding.
You have
Same with ringing hospitals and things like that. You can get the message across as well.
And I guess what helps is because your background was in community as well, you know what the processes and everything are involved there. So like you said, you know why they're asking that particular question, so you know how to then answer that question, not just answering what they're asking, but actually any other queries or that they might have. Now they don't need to ask it because you've been there. And I guess it's kind of it's probably a really nice feeling on their end as well. They can pick up the phone to another pharmacist and know that they're getting that kind of service and that kind of response. So no, thank you for sharing that with us. You're also a regional ambassador for the Primary Care Pharmacy Association. What does your role there involve?
So Primary Care Pharmacy Association PCPA are great, and if anybody is thinking about moving into PCN or practice pharmacy, you need to sign up. So go to the website, get signed up. There are so many resources available, so I have to plug PCPA. And there are Telegram groups, and there is support available. And I would say, if I said 27, I wouldn't be kidding, because the messages are on there all the time. But I am regional ambassador, but at the moment I am probably one of the least experienced people at PCPA. I mean, I've done. We had a recent symposium which was done online via Zoom, and I was able to co-present about my role as a PCN pharmacist and starting out, which was great. But at the moment, I am just trying to encourage more people to join us, and will hopefully be involved with future events. But the experience between all the members of the PCPA committee is huge, and I definitely feel like the least experienced one out of everyone, but there are so many people there willing to help answer and support with queries, whether it's from helping out with preparing for interviews or answering clinical questions, legal questions. So many resources available, webinars, so there's always something going on. Sadly, because of COVID, we've not had any face-to-face events recently, but hopefully that'll be kicking off once things calm down a bit. But lots of virtual events. So definitely something that people need to do.
It's so nice to also be part of like a support team like that as well, and know that there are other people that you can go to if you have any questions or queries or anything similar. So that's really amazing. I'm glad that you've brought that to light, so anyone that doesn't know, they know now. Make sure you go to the website and do check that out. Evident from your experiences that you also have a massive passion for writing. So as we mentioned before, you have your award-winning blog, also write for Chemist and Druggist. You're an author as well of Love Prescribed, which it's available on Amazon, and I'll put the link in the description box below so everyone can go out and read it. Where has the passion for writing come from? Has that always been something that you've had, or no?
I am a massive reader. I love to read, and as a kid I was always reading. I used to, like, as silly as it sounds, my mum used to get me waterproof books to read in the bath, like plastic books I could read.
That's so sweet.
I love reading, and I was one of those kids who had a torch under the covers. As soon as I knew my mum was asleep, I had my light back on and I would read through the night. And I used to make my mum go and take me to the Harry Potter launch at midnight. I was really a massive reader, and I still am when I get the time. So I used to write poems when I was younger. So whenever it was somebody's birthday or Mother's Day, I'd be writing a poem, trying to make it rhyme, to write it in a card and give it to someone. And then when I got to high school, I just really enjoyed English literature. And then we had the opportunity to go on a writing course to Bath, and there were maybe 4 of us that went down, and we really, really enjoyed it. And from then I actually came back and wrote, I'd say a novel, but it wasn't a novel. It was just, I think I was about maybe 14, 15, and I do still have the copy of it that I did.
Oh, wow.
And I self-published a novel. Anybody what it's called, because sadly it is still available online.
Wow,
but
amazing.
it's terrible, and every time I see it I cringe. But I always wanted to write. I enjoyed it, because I thought, well, if other people can write and I can enjoy reading their work, then maybe people would enjoy reading mine. So when I got married last March, but a few months before that, thank you. A few months before that, I actually decided to open a blog. It was September 2 years ago now, and I didn't have the guts to share it. I wrote a blog and I had it on the internet. I had my Facebook page and my Instagram, but I couldn't press share. I was too nervous, because I thought, oh no, people might read it and think it's terrible. And then when I got married, when you're getting ready to get married, the preparation for a wedding, it's just manic. It's crazy. You're doing everything. I was constantly on the go. And then suddenly I was married, and then I just felt like I had nothing to do. I was like, where's all this time come from?
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, I might go back to the blog. And I'd had a really stressful few weeks at work. And then I just suddenly thought one day, oh, you know what, I'm gonna share it, because there are mum bloggers all over the world that do this, and they write about being a mum. Why can't I write about being a pharmacist and being a mum? So I'd spoken to my hubby, and he said, oh, so, what are you going to call it? And I thought, well, I need something that's catchy. I need something that captures what I am and what I do. I'm thinking, could say drugs, could say mum, and then I thought, oh, mum does drugs. And I thought everybody's going to think, oh, well, she's a mum on drugs. But then actually I thought it maybe gets a little bit of a laugh and people are going to want to know.
So clever. It's
So I
so,
thought, well,
so
mum does
clever.
drugs. So I called it Mum Does Drugs, and then I shared it on my own personal Facebook page. And I just said, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. This is what I'm thinking of doing. But, if you want to give it a like and have a read. And before I knew it, it had taken off, and I think I'm at seven and a little bit thousand followers, which is great. And I feel like I've written so much about pharmacy. I feel like maybe I'm starting to spread the word a little now. People are learning, hopefully, fingers crossed, a little bit more about what pharmacies and the pressures that pharmacists and their team are facing.
Which I think is so prevalent for this crazy time of corona that we're in right now as well, because if there was ever more important a time for people to know what actually is the role of a pharmacist, it is now. And like we were saying before, there are these misconceptions that people have, and you I love how honest you were as well before you even looked into pharmacy, because I was the same. I just thought, oh well, pharmacy, I don't know what a pharmacist is. Yeah, they stick labels on boxes. What else is there to it, kind of thing. And it was only until after you start exploring and you realize, wow, they do a heck of a lot more than stick labels on boxes. There's so much more to it. And it's then knowing that you have that understanding, then trying to figure out why people don't have that understanding. I find that it's quite confusing, because it's almost like, if I know what a pharmacist does, why don't you know what they do? And so realms like your blog is so brilliant, because it's reaching out to so many different people, but not in a way that's kind of shoving pharmacy in their face, if you know what I mean. It's doing it in a much more personal way. And I think that's why people love your blog, and that's why now it's won its award, and rightly so. That is such an amazing achievement. Really,
Thank you, that means a lot.
it's so good.
It means a lot to me to see that in some ways it's inspired people. And I never set out to inspire anyone. I never set out to win an award. I just wanted to maybe get some of my own frustrations with the job out and combine it with an enjoyment of writing, and hopefully in some way, if I could at least improve someone's day by giving them something to read or to write about or to talk about, then I thought, well, at least I'm doing something. I'm entertaining myself, keeping my mind going. And then obviously there was one blog that I wrote which almost felt like the catalyst for the growth of it, and that was what did I call it? Prescribing chaos, dispensing disaster, why waiting won't kill you but impatience might. And that was just me having a little bit of a rant on a piece of paper, which I then put on my blog, explaining why it takes so long to wait for a prescription. It's not just a case of taking a box on the shelf, sticking a label on and putting it in a bag. And that was me just having a little rant. And before I knew it, it had been viewed by 100, 200,000 people. And it had been shared all over the world, Australia, America. And all these people were messaging me, and I was thinking, oh, wow, what on earth's gone on here? I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
And people were going, yeah, I agree with you. This is information we need to be printing off and giving to people. And suddenly I realised that there is a pharmacy community out there, and there's so many people who feel the same way that I do. So yeah, I thought, well, I'll keep writing then. We'll keep going and see what happens.
No, it's amazing. And it must be really lovely to know that people want you to continue writing as well. They're like waiting for the next blog to come out. And so you also write for Chemist and Druggist too. So how did that come about? Was that through the blog? Was that separate? What was the journey there?
So when that particular blog became really popular, I had a bit of a moment, and occasionally I've had these moments in the past where I've kind of thought on a whim, oh, what if? And obviously I've seen many articles over the years from Chemist and Druggist. And so I, on a whim, late one night, actually sent an email to one of the contacts at the Chemist and Druggist and said, oh, by the way, hi, my name is Laura. I've just written this blog and it's been really popular. I thought maybe they'd repost it. And actually, I was really fortunate in that I was asked if I would like to write something else, like a blog on a particular topic for them, and said, yeah, wow, yeah, that's fab. And therefore, my first blog for the Chemist and Druggist came out, and I've been so lucky. The team there are great. And I've just kept asking me to write for them, and I've just kept writing for them. So it's been fab.
So
really lovely team.
I'll say that you know, this is like one of the key reasons why I really wanted you here to talk about your experiences, because you are truly inspirational, and you've shown it in that story on its own. You make your own luck in that you're putting yourself out there, which can be a really scary thing to do, but you're living proof of how rewarding that can be too. And I guess when you're in a role, for example, like with pharmacy, and you're doing your day-to-day work, whatever else it is, I think what's so special about a career in pharmacy is that there are those other alternatives that you can do as well. And there is that, not always, but there is that time to be able to do other stuff, whether that be creative stuff or whatever it is that has of an interest to you, to be able to do it. And I just love that you are living proof of that you can do that. My question for you though is, with all these different hats that you have on, how do you have time? Do not get because you've got your
asked me this
well.
question. Yeah, everyone asked me this question, and I don't really sleep very much. I don't know whether that's come from, I think it's come from since having my boys. So I had my youngest while I was at uni, and he was only a few weeks old when I sat my third year exams. And once he was born, I was kind of revising and then breastfeeding and revising and breastfeeding and revising and doing that. And I didn't really get a lot of sleep. And before I had my boys, I was someone who loved to sleep. I loved to lie in. And
that's
kind of
right
since
now.
then, loved to lie in. But since then, my body's just kind of got used to not sleeping as much. And I go to bed late, really late, and then I get up early. But I think because I do such late night, kind of pack more in, I guess. But it's always chaos. So anyone who knows me knows how chaotic I am, and I'm always doing this or doing that, or I'm doing this week, or I'm doing this weekend. But yeah, I don't really know how. I mean, there are times where I forget things, and then I'll turn up to something a week late, or I'll because I have a course as part of my role, sometimes I'll log on Zoom thinking it's today and it's tomorrow. I have those moments. But yeah, I keep going. I always keep going. And just keep swimming.
I love that phrase, that quote. It's just amazing. Just keep swimming. No, that's really good. You're making the most of all the hours that you have, and all of your hard work is clearly paying off, and you're shining so much from it. Laura, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today, for all the advice and knowledge that you've provided. You have been a true inspiration. Just through talking to you,
Thank you.
I feel motivated that instead of just sitting on the floor after this, I should probably go and do something more productive. It's been so lovely talking to you. So thank you so much. Look after yourself and stay safe.
Oh, thank you.